Okay, back again with another episode of D2d Success Stories. Here today with Kenny Cox. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks, Levi.
Yeah.
Stoked to be here. This is exciting.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So, like we were talking about before we started shooting, I initially heard your story when you were on a different podcast talking about selling vacuums and all kinds of. Dude, I love that stuff. I love
there's some grassroots stuff.
Yeah. Love it. So look forward to getting into some of that. So, kind of jump forward and then jump back. So what's your official title these days?
So I'm what they call a partner. I'm a partner at Vivint.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a VP of sales, but it's not. They call us a partnership leader. And I report to the only VP at Vivint who reports to the CFO, who reports to the CEO.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So sweet. And how big's your org these days?
So in 2023, we had 500 reps with a sell. We onboarded over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
We had 500 reps with a sell and actively selling reps, 350 to 400 guys any given day.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Cool. So with that kind of as the prelude, so you've been in door to door for what, 25
long time.
years?
If you count an LDS mission.
Yeah.
This is my 24th year. Yeah, I was doing a little math on the way in and get confused, but kind of the art of sitting in someone's living room, pitching an idea, a product. It's been about 24 years, my entire career.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And actually, I should go back even before that. You're from Central Utah?
Yeah, from San Pete County. Yep, okay. I grew up down in Manti.
Mm-hmm.
For people that know who that is, but or know where it is. But yeah, very blue collar. You worked road construction or agriculture or for the school district. Like that's what you did.
Yep, that's awesome.
And it felt good to branch out and get away from road construction for sure.
Road construction. Yeah. My mom's side of the family, they're all from Richfield. Even more particularly Glenwood, if you're acquainted.
No, I know Richfield really well. My best friend lived in Richfield. I had lots of sleepovers in Richfield as a kid. Yeah. Yeah, man. I love that. And that's the thing. You can take the boy out of the country, but you'll never take the country out of the boy. Like I'm just a small town kid. Even now, I love listening to country music. I love driving a truck. I love getting dirty. I love yard work. Yeah,
what was that truck you drove in here?
It's a F-250. Yeah. No, it's just a Ford. It's a diesel, but
beast.
Yeah, no, great truck. But I loved growing up there. I genuinely felt like I had the best childhood ever. And so still own property down there. I still have extended family there, but all my siblings, we've all moved away and sought opportunities elsewhere. But
right.
Loved growing up down there.
Love it. So you grow up in Manti,
mm-hmm.
and then, missions were definitely at 19 for you. They were for me. I've had all these young bucks on recently, and they all went at 18, but
yeah.
So where'd you go to school?
So I lasted one semester at Snow College in Ephraim, Utah.
Yeah.
Right. My dad sold his company, and part of that was they put a bunch of cash in an account that paid for school for all of us kids. Huh. And went to one semester, and I just lacked direction. It's not that I lacked drive. I just general education, didn't really have a target in mind, didn't really know why I was going to school.
Right.
Lasted one semester and bounced. Came up, moved to Salt Lake. My wife was in school at the University of Utah, and that was when I answered an ad in the paper that landed me in door-to-door sales. And I just knew, even growing up, surrounded by a lot of blue collar, and I never felt like that was for me. I just always felt like I was being called to something else.
Yeah.
I just had no idea what it was. I didn't know what it was really to be an entrepreneur. Didn't really know that commission sales existed.
Uh-huh.
I just knew that there was something different because my whole family line, from my grandfather to my dad, all my aunts and uncles, my uncles, my cousins, they were all very much, very, very blue collar, even still are like today. But and it's not that I mind the hard work. It had never been that. I just felt called something different. So even when I kind of answered these crappy ads that landed me the vacuum sales thing, we talked about that. That was my first official thing outside of the mission in door to door. I loved the opportunity. The product didn't really matter as much to me. It mattered later, and that's why I moved and changed, did something else. But I just, as soon as I saw commission sales, the light went on, and I said, "This is for me. This is what I want.
Yeah. Why do you think that was? Like, just the quick feedback loop of earning what you're worth? Or what is it?
Always been really, really competitive.
Okay.
And so the idea that I could work 5 times harder than someone else on the job and make the same or make less dollars per hour than they were making. I always hated that. And that's the environment I grew up in, right? Working road construction and, $20 an hour. And I'm old. I'm 43 years old now, but
that was good money.
Yeah. And even now for some people, that's still good money. And I'm like, man, that's not good money, but that's poverty.
Yeah.
At the time, there were guys that were making 25, 26, 27 bucks an hour that had worked for my dad for 30 years. Yeah, and so the idea that it was going to take me 30 years to make that kind of money and seeing these people's lifestyle, I'll never forget it. His name was Jack. And he ran a crusher for my dad. That's what my dad kind of oversaw in the family business. And it's the dirtiest job that you could get because you're taking raw material out of the ground, you're loading it onto a conveyor belt that goes up, and then it sorts all of the big rocks, the little rocks, crushes them down into smaller ones. All the dirt, the dust, all that stuff's all in the air around this big machine that's running.
Right.
And this old guy named Jack, he had been there for 30 years, deaf, couldn't hear a thing. You can imagine because he's around this big equipment all day, every day.
I bet. Yeah.
Retires, finally, wants to start fishing every day, had a heart attack and died in 3 months.
Oh, I felt that coming a sentence ago. That sucks.
And it really stuck. And I was a young kid. I was young teens. And it really had an effect on me because my dad loved Jack and Jack loved my dad. And again, had been there his kind of working for my dad and my grandfather his entire career. And when he has a heart attack and dies a few months after finally kind of making it, I wanted something else, Right. Then in my mind, and even my dad did really well financially, and he sold the company, made a bunch of money. He and my uncles did, but it was kind of, I saw the trap that could be, and for me, it was either I wanted to own my own business or I wanted to do something where there was no cap on my income. So I kind of had all these red flags, and I'm eternally grateful. Like my dad, he always put me on the crappiest jobs, like the crappiest stuff around his construction lot or the piece of land that we were on. I always had the worst stuff, and I think he did that by design to inspire me to go do something else, and I eventually did.
Man, it's funny because depending on what light you're looking at it in, because I had the same type of thing going on in my head, and maybe a certain person would be like, oh, that's like entitled, or you think you're special or something like that. But it's like, well, I mean, no, it's just, you want more. Because, man, I had all kinds of little opportunities throughout my early and mid 20s where to a lot of people, they're good jobs. A lot of people accept that, and that's their life, and they do, and they do it.
And we need them to do it.
Yeah, we need them to do it, and they do it every day. And I'd be doing it, and I'd just have this sensation like, no, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
For no other reason than that I had this self-esteem. I don't know where it came from. Yeah. I just felt like I was supposed to do cooler, better things.
Sure. Yeah. I spirit, maybe, call it a spiritual calling, right? And they say that, right? That a manager can save more lives than a surgeon. And I believe that. I mean, if we felt called to that, and if, people even listening to this, if you feel called to that, then you should search until you find it.
Yeah.
Because I've had a way bigger impact in my career, way, way bigger, than I ever would have had running a loader in Centerfield, Utah, working in the family business. And the family business is gone. And like I said, they sold it, but just my level of impact has been infinitely bigger doing this than it ever would have been maybe, staying in small town Utah and the blue collar route. And there's a lot of me that's like wishes I could have raised my family down there and done all of that. But always be grateful for that. It set the table for me to seek something else, and I've totally found it in doing what I'm doing now.
Love it. And skipping ahead, and then we'll come back. You're one of those guys who, because how old did you say you were? 45?
43.
43.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of these guys who kind of, legends of door to door about your same era who are done now.
Yeah.
And, respect to them. They decided they want to do something else.
Sure.
You still work, man.
I'm still grinding.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I knew what life was like before this, and we can maybe get into that.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is think of what life was like before I've maybe found this industry and even doing what I'm doing now. And this is not bad.
Right.
At all. Right. I could be on the track that Jack is on, and it's like, no, I'm really, really happy to be doing what I'm doing. And I still have a lot of fire in my belly. And there are times when I've have to like check myself and kind of take self-inventory and say, like, am I headed in the right direction? Am I still happy? And I have some stuff that actually is that I've spent a lot of time thinking about that I can lay out that will maybe help people listening to this. But yeah, I have kind of 4 things I measure myself against to check myself sometimes to make sure that I'm still where I should be. And I am for right now. And I actually went through that exercise this year, and I'm like fired up. I'm as excited about the job and what I'm doing and the impact I'm having now as I've probably ever been.
Why don't you go ahead with the 4th thing since we
So yeah, we went on a leadership retreat to the NFL headquarters. This is when Blackstone bought Vivint back in it was 2012 or 2013.
Okay.
Blackstone is in the same corporate offices as the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of cool. So we went and checked out NFL headquarters. We went and spent some time with Blackstone. And I'll never forget it. He's the second in command. I should look up his name. You've got Roger Goodell and then this guy. Well, Roger.
Like the COO or something.
Something, yeah. So Roger, he couldn't be there. And so this guy came in, and he was talking about how competitive professional sports are, right? Major leagues and NFL and baseball, and you're always trying to attract new viewers. Thank you. Shout out Taylor Swift for what she's done for football this year.
Put Travis Kelce on the map, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? She really helped his career, right? So we were talking about, and he was talking about what a grind it was. And somebody in the crowd asked, hey, if it's such a grind and it's taxing on your family, like, why do you keep doing it, or how do you keep doing it? And he said this, and I wrote it down, and it's kind of become one of my mantras. So I wish I could just take credit for this, but I'm really good at stealing good ideas and making them better, and that's what I've no different with this one. But he just said, every 4 years, I kind of look up and I ask myself 4 questions, and if I can answer yes to all 4, I put my head down and I don't think about it again for 4 years.
Okay.
The first one is, do I like the people that I work with? The second one is, do I agree with the direction of the company? The third one is, am I fairly compensated? Mm-hmm. And then 4th, do I believe in my product or service? He said, if I can say yes, I put my head down and don't think about it. And so that's literally what I do. And it's probably not every 4 years for me. And because, especially since I've been involved in solar, it changes so freaking fast.
Yeah.
It changes so fast. If you don't like solar, just give it like 30 days, right? And maybe you'll like it again, or maybe you'll hate it even more. But, and so for me, it's kind of once a year, like little mental reset, ask myself those 4 questions. And it's like, there's been moments and times where it's like, I don't know if I do. I'm going to go do a deep dive and maybe, get in the weeds on some of this stuff and use influence to change. If I don't agree with the company's direction, can I influence a change in that? If I can, then why would I do anything else?
Right.
And I've always been able to do that in my career. Like if there's been stuff, solar specifically, at Vivint specifically, that I have been able to influence to keep us in a track where I'm like, no, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, that's helped me a ton in my career.
I love that, because you certainly have to be able to ask yourself those questions.
For
you
sure.
just don't want to be doing it every day, right?
No.
'Cause then what you'll do is you'll be in a crappy moment where you're down on something, and you'll be like, does this make me happy? And you're like, well, no, I don't. So I quit or something.
Well, and on your other podcasts too, like that's kind of been, if everybody's looking for like the clues, right? The clues of success, a lot of the clues are just stay. Wherever you are, like water the grass where you're at. And if I had to attribute one thing to my success in this space, is I've been in the same place for 18 years.
Yeah.
And have I looked left or looked right to make sure that, for sure, right? For sure. But the fact that I've doubled down each time and said, no, this is like, I'm going to make this the greenest grass that I can. And I'm going to use the political capital or the influence that I've earned to influence the changes that I think need to happen. And I've been able to successfully like navigate and do that. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've made what I feel like is a brilliant career in the space because I've just stayed put. Yeah. And I've built and I've done it the right way, or I hope I've done it the right way, surrounded myself with excellent people. And even John Taylor and some of these others you've had, it's all kind of the same story. You haven't really had anyone on that's been at like 12 companies.
No.
And shout out if guys have made a career successfully on how to do that. That's a lot of stress for me. Like I've been married to the same woman for 23 years. I've been going to the same church my entire life. Like I've been at Vivint for 18 years. And I like the idea of just staying put, and it's created something pretty special for me.
Yeah, I relate to that in a big way. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, spoiler alert, Kenny stayed at Vivint.
Yeah. Here I am.
So with that, let's jump back. Vacuums.
Yeah.
So you answer the ad, you get started. This is what year is this?
So even prior to, kind of funny, my first door-to-door experience was actually selling chocolate when I was in elementary school. First thing I ever did. I won a competition. It was freaking rad. I actually think I talked about that on another podcast. But that one was always with me because I literally went and knocked on my neighbor's doors on my bike. I had like pegs. It was like a BMX like trick bike. And I sold chocolate, and I sold more chocolate than everybody else, and I won this 2 foot tall chocolate Easter bunny. Served the mission. Yeah. Went to New Zealand. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then, when I got home, moved to Salt Lake, answered a really crappy ad in the paper. It said, sports-minded people only, call this number. And it was actually a multi-level marketing company. Yeah. I was a sucker for the cheesy ads. It was like, yeah, I'm competitive. Yeah, I'm sports-minded.
That's me, man.
And they were always like the shadiest gigs. Yeah. It was, so Trek Alliance, it was like selling shampoos and conditioners, like got this credit card. My dad co-signed for me. I like maxed it out with like weird stuff that you got to sell, and then you got to recruit people to sell under you, and you make, that. Yeah. FTC ended up shutting those guys down. Oof. But then after that, it was part-time drivers wanted. So then it was like opposite side. It was like part-time driver. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll find another job, get a part-time thing while I'm going to school with my wife. And that was when I landed like the sales job in vacuums. How
did they spin that? Part-time driver, but we're actually selling vacuums.
That's what's so funny. So I go in, and the interview goes like this. She said, we have 2 positions. One is that you can I don't even remember what the driver part was. Like you can be a part-time driver for us, or we're also looking for customer service agents. I'm like, oh, okay, customer service. I could maybe do that. And they're like, yeah, you're going to set up a product. You're going to do a presentation. You don't have to sell anything. And you just have to explain it to people. They're preset appointments, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, cool. I want to do that. And they invite me back for a second interview. And that's when they break the vacuum out of the box. Almost walked out. Yeah. Almost. Because I walked out of a Cutco interview. Prior to this, almost walked out. But then they showed the pay model. And that was when I was like, what I explained earlier, that was the moment where I was like, hang on, I can make whatever level of income I want to make, and nobody but me dictates.
Eat what you kill.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And I loved that. Same thing that sucked me into this multi-level marketing like Trek Alliance thing, right? And I did it. It actually took me 4 weeks to sell my first machine. Oh. Wanted to quit every single day. And so I found a lot of success early when I started selling alarms, but it's because I paid the price selling vacuum cleaners. Okay. Wanted to quit every single day. Had a really, really cool experience. It was one of those kind of critical moments in my life where, and again, I'm kind of dating myself here, but like debit cards were like a new thing. Right. And I'll never forget, I pulled $20 out of my pocket, standing in my 500 square foot apartment on 21st South, downtown Salt Lake. Yeah. And I showed it to my wife. I said, I'm going to drive out to Price, Utah and do this vacuum demo. If I don't sell it, I'll quit. But this is the last $20 I'm going to spend on fuel driving around doing vacuum demos. And the lady bought. Wow. I made $380.
Was that your first sale?
First sale.
Wow.
First sale. She put it on a credit card, so I got a little bonus. Yeah. But then I'm driving home, and I'm like, $380 divided by this took me like 8 hours with drive time and everything. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, I just made more money than than my dad ever paid anyone at the job.
Right.
And then the dam broke and I just started selling everything. I started, and in the end, I closed about 80% of the presentations that I would close.
Just a confidence thing?
Yeah, confidence thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and moved to Texas, opened my own store, and had really terrible mentors.
Okay.
The lady that I worked with was a kind of a liar and a cheat. Yeah. And I would listen to her interact with customers on the phone, saying stuff that I knew was not true, not fulfilling on stuff, saying, oh, it's in the mail. For sure was not in the mail. Like sitting in there, I remember sitting in on Fridays after I'd had a big week, and I just had to sit and wait, sometimes for hours, for her to give me my paycheck. And then when she'd give it to me, it was like she was doing me a favor.
Well, it's tough, man, because how old are you at this time? Like 25 or something?
Dude, I was 21, 22.
Oh, yeah, real young kid. Yeah. So, I mean, you're a young kid taking a big swing, and that's great. And those can pan out if you just have absurd belief in what you're doing. Yeah. But then when your higher-ups are lying, it's tough to believe in things.
It's just what she was not and again, I was there for the opportunity, right? And so I could look past some of these people at the time, right? It ended up being my kind of, I won't say my demise in the end. My demise was my doing, not hers, but she for sure did not kind of help. Mm-hmm. But there was just these things that happened along the way that showed me exactly what I did not want to be in business.
Right.
And so when I eventually, what happened is fast forward a couple of years, I'm in Texas, had my first son, just started reading self-help books. Like I finally discovered kind of self-help. I'm reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm reading Richest Man in Babylon, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I start having, these words and these concepts rolling around in my brain. And I'll never forget, I woke up one morning and I said, 5 years from now, do I want to be doing the same thing with the same group of people? And I was like, absolutely not. I had never really thought 5 years ahead in that way before. Mm-hmm. And it was emphatically no, I do not. And that day, I called my dad and sought counsel from him on what to do. Mm. And within 2 weeks, I had a U-Haul packed up and moved back to Utah.
Wow!
And was out.
So while you're down there doing it, like were you selling vacuums? Like
I was the only one selling vacuums. So that was what was tough. Was as a sales rep, I was doing fine. I was doing great.
And you were like opening a branch or something.
That's what I did. Yeah. So I had to move to Texas to open a branch for some weird reason. I had to move to Texas, and I signed a lease, right, in my name. It's 21, 22-year-old kid. I signed this lease like $3,000 a month. Phones were like $500 a month. Power was like, I don't even remember, $800 or $900 a month.
Oh, so this is kind of like a franchise. Like you're putting down for the expenses.
Oh, all of it.
Yeah.
And I should have just run it out of the trunk of my freaking car, right? Like I should have been lean and mean.
No, man, you're 21. You want to be a legit businessman.
And I've got this mentor, right? Yeah, I've got this mentor that's like, this is what you do. You open this, and then I had 3 people on $2,000 a month salaries. All these really stupid expenses that I just didn't need. And then I'm running ads every week. So I'm in the office first thing in the morning, hiring. I'm running training classes in the afternoon, and then I'm out selling in the evenings. And like shout out to those in the vac business. It is a tough gig.
So you're trying to like onboard and train, but tough retention.
A revolving door.
So it basically just winds up being you selling to pay expenses.
That's it. Yep, exactly. So every night I'm out, and luckily I'm really good. I'm selling, but it's literally I'm not getting ahead.
You're just
at all
spinning your wheels.
Yeah, I'm just spinning my wheels, and there's no end in sight. Like I'm not duplicating leaders, and I'm young enough in the game, and my mentors aren't there. And she had never really done what she was kind of trying to teach me, maybe how to do. And I was young and hungry, but I was getting really, really burnt out. And when I asked myself that question that morning, and I could not see light at the end of the tunnel, that's why I'm calling my dad. I'm like, hey, how do I walk away from a lease? Hey, I have all these bills. And so, when I transitioned away from that, thinking I was done with sales, like I started having like bill collectors calling me. And I mean, luckily the guy didn't, because I think I signed like a 5 or 6 year lease.
Yeah, because commercial, for your office.
I mean, he could have come after me. I don't even remember. It was a lot though. At the time, it was like 60 or 70 or $80,000 that I had left on this thing. Yeah. And I just walked away from it. And I told him, like, I went in and confronted him man to man. In fact, I never even talked to him. His assistant just said, "Hey, what's up?" And I just said, I need to break my lease. And she just said, "Hey, just pay us when you can. He's not going to come after you. Just pay us when you can." And I said, "I'm not going to pay you. I'm moving back to Utah. I just wanted you to hear it from me." And she said, "Well, thanks for telling us." And that was it. He never pursued me, never came after me. And I think he knew I was just a young kid trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, so that was a tender mercy that he didn't. But yeah, I had, outside of that, I had like $60,000 worth of debt that I had racked up, which at that time, at a 22-year-old kid with no education per se. Looking back now though, that was the best education. That 60 grand bought me the best education it could buy.
Yep.
Yeah. It taught me who I didn't want to be. It taught me how to like maybe be lean and mean, how to keep your expenses like low, right? How to self-educate, how to ask yourself forward-thinking questions, who to surround myself with. And so while at the time, I felt, I don't know that I would ever say I felt like a victim, like ever, right? Never asked to borrow a penny from anyone. Mm-hmm. I paid off every single penny of all of that stuff. Like I owned up to all of it. But looking back on it now, it literally made me who I am. So there's that idea that, that tough times make strong men. Like mm-hmm. That's what it did for me.
Formative stuff.
Yeah,
man. My little story, I won't tell the whole thing, but I actually went to law school down in Texas.
Sick.
Yeah.
Austin?
Austin. Yeah. UT.
Yeah.
Went for a year, going back to quitting things. I was like, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. Quit law school.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'd spent 80 grand on it. I think I only paid about 30 of it in cash. Yeah, I had 50 something in debt.
Mm-hmm. And didn't finish.
Had to figure it out from there. So, yeah, we got that one in common. But yeah, formative stuff, man. Formative stuff.
Well, it caused you to think big, though, right? Like because you created this big problem for yourself. You're like, how in the world am I going to get out of this?
Yeah,
right? And you did.
You want to know something? This is kind of a random little connection, but I had two door-to-door experiences. I had this year where I sold pest control when I was a real young kid. That was before all that. Mm-hmm. And then I had getting into Windows, which was after all that, where I was a lot more successful. And before that law school experience, I was so scared of money, scared of, the world, like scared of anything going wrong. I was like this uptight kind of perfectionist personality. And, I'd be selling people these like $300 contracts because I was a wimp, so I'd skip to the bottom pricing immediately, right? Sure. And I felt like I was asking them the world to spend $300. Mm-hmm. And then 3 years go by, I get my teeth kicked in, I'm 50 G's in debt. I go sell windows, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's 18 grand. We'll get you financed, $205 a month. You'll be just
piece
fine.
Of cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you view it all so much different.
Oh, for sure.
Just from being on the other side of that, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. And I think that was one of the benefits that I had, maybe even with selling vacuums, was maybe kind of the opposite effect, because I was asking people for $2,000 mm-hmm. for this, this vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And so when I ended up at Vivint asking for $39, $39.99 a day for this thing, It was like, no, I'm shelling these things out. It's like everybody can afford this. Yeah. I'm broke and I can afford this thing,
Yeah. You felt it as you sold it.
Like, 100%.
This is a small number, so why wouldn't they feel it?
Yeah, exactly. So, so again, like and you're saying, we're both saying the same thing. Like it's easy to connect the dots by looking back, right? And for me, that was certainly the case. Like I think that those really, really negative experiences that could have led me the other way. Because when I came back from Texas, I wanted out of sales. I actually worked for 18 months at a bank.
Yeah.
And that cured me from ever wanting to work in an industry like that. So now I'd worked construction. I'd been in door-to-door sales, had a terrible experience. Went back into like corporate America or, a white collar type job. And working at a bank is miserable. Like props to people that can work in banks with all the rules and regulations and people looking over your shoulder, and books are always being audited, and did that for 18 months. And then Vivint or Apex, right? My little brother goes out, came home from his mission, went out, had a great summer. I watched him make $60,000. I go car shopping with him. And I'm like, hang on, you made $64,000 in 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm working at this bank. I'm making $42,000 a year working at US Bank, selling vacuum cleaners at night to pay off these debts that I owe.
Yeah.
And Bodie Gardner, really, really close friend of mine still today. He and I served our missions together in New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah.
And he had been at Vivint or Apex for 4 years, recruited my little brother. All right. And so Kevin goes out, has this great experience. And I was gun shy of sales, but when my little brother kind of went and proved it out, I had big brother syndrome, and it was like, I'm going to curb stomp this kid. Like, I will absolutely double him up. And that was when I started. Yeah.
Here's the question I got to ask. Did he rub your nose in it when you were car shopping with him?
So I think he was, yeah. I think he was pretty excited about what he accomplished. We were at the Acura dealership, and this is when the Acuras were like, I mean, it may as well have been like a Rolls Royce, because we were there and I was looking at these nice cars, and I'm driving this like 2-door coupe that's like green. It's like it was a Chevy Veo, I think.
Yeah.
And I needed something to get like gas mileage because I'm driving around to vacuum demonstrations, right? But yeah, so he maybe not on purpose, but he totally was rubbing my nose in it, 100%. But yeah, then he and I went out that next year. I sold a bunch of preseason accounts, was the number one rookie in the company, and it changed my life. It changed everything. I made $136,000 that year, and paid off all my bad debt, paid off my wife's student loans, finally bought my wife like a car because the car she was driving, you could see the road through the floor pan in the car. That's what the car my wife brought to the marriage. Yeah. That's what it was.
Like the Flintstone car.
Yeah, bro, it was terrible. Yeah. So I finally bought her a new car that she deserved. And then it was off to the races from there. Like I basically got my head above water that first year. It was kind of like hitting the reset button. And now it's like, no, it's go time. And I feel like every year in door to door, if guys do this right, you're at least 5 years ahead of the real world, right? From all angles, right? From a skill set, from a networking standpoint, I think you can get that way. And then certainly financially, if you're doing it right, you should out earn your peers by 5 years every year you do this.
It's like dog years.
100%. Yeah. And so here I am 18 years deep, but I feel like I have a couple, maybe a couple careers worth of experience and network.
Absolutely.
And maybe even opportunities I'm in and future opportunities that have been created for me from doing this.
So I'm sure this goes without saying, but that first year you go out there, you kill it, you make a bunch of money, pay off your debt. I'm sure it's just gratitude all around. You're stoked.
All around. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Like my worst days here are better than my best days not being in the door-to-door space.
Yep.
Doing this, like again, construction, working at a bank, like I'll take the worst day here versus doing it there. And again, those are all awesome opportunities, awesome jobs. Like my oldest son, he's 19. He works at a tire shop, and I am super, super proud of him. And we need people working in tire shops. And will he ever be a door-to-door guy? Probably not. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not poo-hooing that at all. It just wasn't for me, right. And it wasn't for you. Yeah. And the guys listening to this, probably not for you either. Like, there's a reason that you feel called to something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that. So you go out, you kill it.
Yeah.
Come back from that year. Are you kind of transitioning to manager like your second year, recruiting a team?
Yeah. First year I recruited one guy, Jay May. I'll never forget him. He's a homie. I still run into him from time to time. He drives a cement truck.
Nice.
Now, bunch of kids. Sold 40 accounts, didn't come back. But my mindset coming in, and it was wrong, by the way, was, hey, I'm going to go rip a big paycheck and I'm going to show it to everybody, and they're all going to want to work for me. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'll start recruiting. Nobody cared. Everybody cares what the opportunity is for them. They don't care what it meant for me. They care what it is for them. That's number one with recruiting, right? But I was 26.
Let me stop you there just real quick because, kind of a really simple surface level. I hear you say that, and I'm like, well, I think that's what I do.
Yeah.
Hey, we sell this. You can make this much money. I can show you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that is putting it in their terms, right?
For sure.
I'm going to teach you how to do it.
Yeah, this is what the opportunity is for you. And this is proof that it can work. Yeah.
Because you do have to use your story kind of, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure you do. I think for me it was, hey, I'm just going to tell everybody I ripped a big check and they're going to want to come and work with me.
Oh, yeah. So it
was like, look, I had lots of people around me that already had the story. I could have recruited kind of off of their testimony. So I guess my point is I wasted a year I could have been recruiting that I didn't because I felt like I had to be the show pony. I did not have to be the show pony. There was plenty. My little brother, Bodie Gardner, like all the other guys that were there recruiting me, they already had the proof, and that was why I was coming. And when I knew that was the opportunity for me, I came. And so I wasted the first year not really recruiting anyone because I felt like I had to have a check to show to people.
Understand.
And so just don't wait. The thing with recruiting is just don't wait. Like always, start recruiting. The best recruiters are the ones that just spend the most time at it, right? It's the same thing with who are the best sales guys? They're the ones that have logged the most hours on the doors. And it's no different in the recruiting world. Like my whole career at Vivint, there's these guys where, I've run circles around them, laps around them in selling, but they're better recruiters than me. And it's really simple. Why this was early. Now I feel like I can hang with anybody on any topic or any part of the job. But early on, I was like, why is he recruiting? Well, it's because he's spending 8 hours a day doing it.
It's a lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes with my guys, they'll talk about like they have like planned recruiting time, like recruiting activities. I'm like, is that a thing you can plan? I think
for some guys they do.
Yeah, I mean,
their brain just works better that way.
I suppose you could plan to go do something special if you're doing like the campus thing or something like that. But you also just have to have your eyes peeled at all times.
For sure,
right?
Yeah, talent's everywhere, right? Yeah. Sandwich shop, AT&T store, like wherever. I was at a restaurant in Arizona. I took my wife on a quick getaway and recruited the server, the kid that was serving us, right? Yeah. So for sure. But for some guys, like it has to be planned because if it's not on their calendar, they just won't do it. They don't maybe think the same way you and I did because there was a time where I didn't.
Yeah.
But year 2, started recruiting, ended up taking about 12 guys out, co-managed with my little brother, had another really good year. And then year 3, we split. Year 3, we ended up working together again. Kevin and I did. And then year 4, we split. He ended up in Chicago and I ended up in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
And ran my own team, did like 1,200 accounts and had some really good, like really, really good years up until 2011. And then really figured a couple of things out. Started selling really big personal numbers.
Yeah.
For a couple different reasons. Like I had some new influences in my life kind of introduced.
Yeah.
Really good mentors that kind of came in and helped me get to the next level where I started selling big numbers and my team started selling a lot of accounts.
And this is around year like 4 and 5, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 5 years in and still learning. And so I have a hard time in door to door when you have guys that have been in the space for 3, 4 years, 5 years and feel like they have it all figured out.
Yeah. They're not getting better.
No.
I run into it a lot in my business. A lot of our closers, for instance, will have their best month ever, their like second month closing.
Yeah.
And I tell them all the time, I'm like, do not let that be the coolest thing you ever do.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was that way for me for sure. Cause I had 4 years where I, again, like always really good personal sales numbers. Office was doing okay, but I was looking around saying like, guys are crushing me. Like I'm doing 250 a year and here's this guy doing 400 accounts and there's no way he's working more hours than me at all. So there's got to be something in his skill set. So 4 years in, I still attended every single training meeting.
Love that.
If there's a company event, I'm there. If there's a training meeting, then I'm there. And I'll never forget it. I attended a training meeting. The number one guy in the company from the year before was there. And on a scale from 1 to 10 from a skill set standpoint, he was probably like a 6. But there were couple things he did that just blew my mind, and I immediately took those and implemented them, and I caught a whole new gear. The next year was 311, then it was 352, 346, and so I leveled up from a personal standpoint. But when you're selling really good numbers, you attract a lot of talent, and so because I became one of the top performers, I started attracting top performers as in the recruiting world. And then my team blew up. We went from 4,000 accounts to 8,000 accounts, and I created a region. And and even now, 18 years in, my average manager at Vivint has been here for 12 years.
Love it.
And you don't keep really, really good talent in a place, in any company, unless they can kind of answer those 4 questions that we went over earlier. And so I feel like one of the feats in my career isn't just that I figured it out on the personal side. It wasn't that I just figured it out on the management side, but it's that we've figured out as a company, and that Vivint's been tremendously helpful with culture and leadership and to create stickiness with good talent for a long, long time. Right. But yeah, now for the last 5 or 6 years, I've kind of been in this position of like a partnership leader, where not really so much on the doors anymore, but just making sure that policies are good for salespeople, making sure that training is good, our platform's good, that we're like in the direction that we want to be as a company. And we can talk about this, but
before we do,
go ahead.
Before we do, I wanted to know. So it sounds like your first couple years managing, so that's years 2, 3, 4 in alarms, pretty successful.
Yeah,
I mean, was there any big growing pains as a leader there early on?
Just so yes. And I think this was one of the things like that I've dealt with over the years, is that the hard thing about leadership is that you're like, a lot of people want your time, right? And I've had a lot of wildly talented people in the space that they just want to focus on themselves. And so when they have to like stay up late at night, maybe role playing with a struggling rookie, or meeting guys at the office early in the morning to like role play some more, or they're talking guys off of a ledge because they're trying to quit. They just get tired of that. And they're like, hey, the override that I'm making on that account, it's not worth my time when I can just go focus on personal sales. And that's a big pitfall. I mean, if you want to be like an eternal individual performer, great. Then that's a perfect mindset to have.
Well, you have to see the second and third order effects of all those actions.
Yeah,
like if you fix a guy one good time, really teach him something, he might keep working for you for years.
That's right.
He might have recruits who he teaches all those things. Like you have no idea where that's going.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I learned early on, and this was a lesson from Todd Peterson. He just said, he told me, if you always do what's right for your people, it'll always be what's right for you. And he lived by that. And obviously, he created like a real legacy that lives on. But I've tried to live my career by that. I never wanted people that worked with me to just view me as selfish or greedy or just really self kind of driven. So I spent a lot of time pouring into my people, even when it didn't maybe pan out. But when guys do that, you create this reputation of, hey, Levi looks after his guys. Levi takes care of his people. And so even when they move on, that reputation continues. And so it's been really easy for me to capture and keep really good talent because they just know that you care, when you operate that way. Where when it's the opposite, when you're always just worried about keeping the area for yourself and your own time and energy, and hey, I'm not going to kind of pour into my people because the override's only this big and I can make this much on a personal sell. That's fine. We need individual performers. But for guys that kind of take, it's the Henry Ford philosophy, right? I'd rather have 1% of 100 people than 100% of just myself. That's how it is in direct to home. But I feel like it's not just the entrepreneur side of that. Like it's the big picture piece. Like, and you and I, because you're how old? You and I are
31.
Okay, 31. Man, you're young. You're a young guy. I thought you and I were closer in age.
I look old.
No, it's great, dude. It's great. But the older I get, and I'm sure this is the same for you, like money is great. And probably when I first started, that was the biggest part of the opportunity for me. But the longer I've done this, I'm just looking for purpose. Like I'm looking for, I call it meaningful work, right? And where I've kind of realized this was I watched a interview with Todd Peterson and Ryan Smith. You probably know those guys.
Yeah.
2 billionaires are sitting next to Todd's jet chopping it up, and they're just talking about all this philanthropic work that they're doing. And it just hit me. I'm like, when you get 2 billionaires, guys that they could spend as much money as they wanted every day, and they'll never spend it in lifetimes.
Yeah,
right.
Whatever they're doing, it's not for food, it's not for shelter.
No, not at all. And it's like, so what are they doing? They're doing the stuff that means something to them.
Yeah.
And so I've been seeking that kind of in my own life now, where it's like I just want to be making an impact Because the dollars are great, but I think as long as you're focused on creating value for others, making as big an impact as you can, which requires a lot of work on yourself. You always have to have something to offer, right? If you're not bringing something to the table, like some new piece of content, some experience that you've had, some failure or some success, or if you're not taking chances and you're not bringing that to the table in all the circles that you kind of operate in, you're not as valuable as you could be. And so now I'm in this world where I want to have a lot of experiences. I want to take shots, right? I want to be able to take what I've learned over all these years and give it to others. And when I kind of look at it and I measure myself against those 4 questions we talked about earlier, like, no, I love mentoring guys, right? Still love the money. The money's still fantastic. And it's for sure a hygiene factor. But what really keeps me here and enjoying the work is that it means something to me.
Yeah.
I still like the product that we sell. I still like the people I work with. I am fairly compensated, but I'm making a really deep and lasting impact. And that really, at the end of the day, like that's what I want.
I love that you say that, man, because and I've talked about this on a few previous podcasts. It's kind of a pet topic for me, but too many people these days, I think, look at it like I will make the minimum, acceptable amount of money for me, and then I'll retire to a life of nothing but leisure. Or here's one, I'll kind of, banter with those people and I'll be like, yeah, but you got to have something to do, man. Something that gives you purpose. And then they're like, oh, well, just this one charity thing then. It's like super. So basically, charity's great, but they're judging what they do for work to be of very little value from an impact purpose. They're just like, work is for money. And if I was in some charity, that would be impactful, but I can't make any impact in my work.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is because you definitely, prioritize impact in your work, find meaning in it.
Oh,
it's
for sure.
one of the reasons you've stuck around so long.
100%. Yeah. If that wasn't, because you and guys like you and I, there's a lot of things that we could be doing to make a bunch of money.
Right.
What keeps me here and keeps me interested is that I know I'm having an impact on the up and coming generation, on the industry as a whole. And we really want that. But to your point, it was interesting. We had Sean Brenchley. You remember Sean? You've maybe heard his name.
He's one of the co-founder.
Yeah, one of the co-founders of Vivint. Sure. When Blackstone came in and bought the company, Sean retired.
Okay.
And he made a bunch of money when it happened. But I'll never forget, I had a conversation with him and I was like, how you doing? He's like, honestly, and this was a few months after he'd retired. He's like, I'm super bored. I'm super bored. Yeah. He's like, I've gotten really good at shopping for produce at the grocery store. I know how to find the best, apples and the best bananas and the best stuff. And he's like, no, honestly, it's been really boring for me. And I thought that was so interesting because there's all these people that talk that are exactly that way. Hey, I'm working to an exit, like I'm working to a finish line. And we've heard it that there is no finish line. Well, the older I get, the more I'm realizing like there's not. Like my finish line will be when I probably stop breathing.
So let me just play, and me and you 1,000% agree on this. Let me just play the devil's advocate position so we can air out the argument.
Sure.
Then if they're being really cynical, they'd say, oh, so you've become such a workaholic that's the only thing you know how to enjoy. Isn't that sad?
Wow. I don't think that's the case at all. I completely disagree with that, right? No, I like, okay, so what is the opposite, right? If I'm not working, I'm shopping for groceries every day. Like I'm telling you, and I love my wife dearly. If I sat at home all day, we would kill each other. It would not be a happy marriage.
Same.
No. So while what I'm engaged in might change, right? Am I going to be here in this same space doing what I'm doing until I'm 65 or 70? Probably not. But I'm going to be anxiously engaged in a good cause, doing something, right? And again, even billionaires that have moved on, they don't need any dollars. Like they are working towards something, right? And it's part of our genetic makeup. Like you don't just work to an exit and then go fishing every day. Like you're not going to do that. Like unless I want to kind of take this fire that maybe God blessed me with and like hide it under the bushel, as the scriptures say.
Yep.
But there's like some consequence. I really believe there's consequences for that. no, I'm going to let it shine as bright as I can. And it's one of the things that fires me up the most. And it's the reason I say yes to coming on the podcast, because hey, I have these experiences, I have these gifts, I have these things that I feel like I can share to impact others. Like, I'm going to let the light shine.
It's like a duty. You're accountable to having 100%. Shared them or not.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think too many people play small. You know, we play, and I'm even threatened with that, where sometimes it's like, hey, this is a lot of pressure. Like, it's a lot of pressure. A lot of people are looking to me. Like, it's kind of a grind. I'm getting kind of tired. And I kind of look at it, I'm like, if not me, like, who really? Elon Musk has it's an autobiography that's out. I don't know if you've listened to it.
Not yet.
It is so fascinating. And I've grown a new appreciation for Elon, just the way that he kind of operates. You should for sure check it out. I forget the name of the author. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But he talks about colonizing Mars, right? That's his like holy cause. And he is in a hurry.
I love it.
Yeah. And why is he in such a hurry? Because he says, if I don't do it, nobody will. Uh-huh. It's up to me. And so he is moving so fast and putting so much pressure on everyone that we have to colonize Mars during my lifetime, because if I don't, nobody else will. And anyhow, like, I'm not looking to colonize Mars, but I am looking to have a really, really big impact. And I know you are too. That's why you start this podcast. Because if not us, then who else is going to do it? And I'm not going to sit around for someone else to have the impact that I want to go and have on society, on the door-to-door sales force, because I really do think that this is the best platform for guys to go have a big experience and change people's lives. I mean, that's what it's been for me.
Love it. Love that. So you become a manager, regional manager, you scale up.
Sure.
Start crushing personal productions we were talking about.
Sure.
So talk about, you talked about what kind of happened between years 5 and 10. Talk about years, I'm going to say 10 to 20. This is
Yeah.
So everybody knows, Vivint kind of got sold or like bought in stages two or three different times.
Yeah.
The Vivint solar thing happened. Mm-hmm. The last, I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, I haven't had too much clarity on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you're going to have a reaction to this. Tell me why the Vivint story hasn't just already happened.
Got you. Why it's still an opportunity?
Yeah.
Okay, like this. So this is great. So I guess a really, really fast answer to that is we've got 2 million paying subscribers.
Yeah.
2 million. I mean, I don't need to tell you the population of the United States.
Right.
So from a market penetration standpoint, we're still a baby. Now, have we had some I won't say exits, but we had some big transactions? You bet. 2012, we sold for $2 billion to Blackstone. Uh-huh. And then in 2022, in December of 2022, we sold to NRG for $5 billion. Yeah. We also had the Vivint Solar transaction when they sold to Sunrun. I got a little tiny piece of that. Uh-huh. So it's been really, really fun because, I've been here in years 10 to 20 for me were when kind of these transactions happened where there was little equity pops above and beyond like commissions earned.
Because like a lot of the guys, your same era, age, who you kind of came up with, I mean, these are like guys who like I invest in apartment buildings with now. They're gone.
Awesome.
They're gone.
Yeah. They've moved on.
Tons of respect, but you
here I am.
Love the thing you're doing, man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I have. And trust me, there's been lots and lots of opportunities to do that. And at some point I will. At some point I'll step away and look and there's something really healthy about getting out of the way to let the next generation rise up. So they'll either ask me to leave at some point or I'll leave because something else just feels better or whatever. And props to a lot of those guys. That's exactly what happened. Like all of my mentors in the business, Bodie Gardner, Jeff Mendez, Casey Baugh, like all of them kind of rode off into the sunset, are hugely successful outside of door to door, and still play a humongous role in my life. Still talk to them on the regular. I invest in a lot of their deals. We still go hunting and fishing and golfing together. Yep. Love those guys. Like lifetime friendships for sure. But it gave me an opportunity when they transitioned out to step up, and that's what it's been for me the last probably 5 years, But we had, they say it's not it's not the strong that survive, it's the ones that are willing to adapt and change.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've actually been able to successfully do that inside of Vivint. It's one of the things that's kept me alive in the business, because it is, we're in this space. Door to door is like, you're anxious all the time. You feel like you could lose it all tomorrow, right? Yeah. And the thing that you'll find if you study a lot of really great entrepreneurs is everybody feels that way. Everybody is terrified they're going to lose it all the next day. Yep. And it's what keeps us in business. It's what keeps us hungry and grinding. But I feel like sometimes I'm a gazelle in like the Serengeti, where I'm just like, I'm eating for a second and then I'm looking around for the lion that's going to come and eat me and everything I've created. But that's what happened we were talking about this before the podcast, but fast forward to 2019, my group, we had done 19,000 smart home accounts. We'd grown 30%. I was on the top of the world.
It's crazy.
5,000 accounts right after the summer left to go sell solar.
Yeah.
Interest rates were coming down. Big check Fridays started. Solar started getting really, really loud. And it's not that guys had a bad experience at Vivint. They just saw what was possible in solar. Yeah. And they wanted that. And so overnight, right, like the lion had come and taken 5,000 accounts worth of people. And I went to Todd Peterson and I said, hey, it's the second time that it had happened to me. Once when we started Vivint Solar, I had a big group of guys that left to go help start the company. And I wished them well and I supported it. But this time was not supported. Like I did not want this to happen. And very quietly, we started selling solar here at Vivint again. And a lot of people don't know this, but Vivint Solar, which is kind of like the godfather of solar as it stands right now as an industry, was started inside of Vivint, was always meant to be part of the smart home offering. It was always meant to be that way.
One company.
Yeah, exactly. It was always meant to be one. Well, because of our bylaws of our debt and our money, we couldn't use dollars in Vivint to finance things like trucks for solar and warehouses and solar panels.
Because Vivint was public at this point. So
we weren't actually. We were privately held.
Vivint, but you had investors and stuff.
Oh, exactly. What I'm talking about.
You had shareholders who expect a certain amount of profits. They don't want all the upfront expenses of solar stuff. But
what you can use those dollars, those investment dollars for, are very strict, right? And they're on growing the smart home business.
Right.
So we took Vivint Solar public, and we all know how that, the two companies just went like this. We did not work together at all. And so in 2019, my business partners and we started a little solar dealer on the side in Texas, started learning how to bundle smart home and solar. And now fast forward 4 years later, we're doing solar inside of Vivint. We're a smart home company.
Yeah.
Our average customer stays on with us with smart home for 9 years. Okay. Solar, we sell once, we make a little bit of margin. But what it does is we call it LTV. It's how we measure the value of a customer over 5 years. Mm-hmm. It doubles or triples the value of a customer for us attaching solar. And when we attach solar to it, our solar realization is like 80 or 90%. We sell a smart home and then bundle the solar on so they can see their usage, their consumption, their net metering all through the smart home app. It's a beautiful thing. It's exactly what Todd Peterson envisioned in 2011.
Initially. Yeah, way back when.
And now here we are all these years later finally executing on it. And so for the last 5 years, I've been a balance of solar and smart home, and it's been a beautiful thing. I've probably aged 10 years because it's been a startup.
Lots of moving parts, man.
Yeah, and so I started it as self-preservation, inside of Vivint. It's like, hey, how do I offer this opportunity so that my guys don't feel like they need to go anywhere else and they can do this with me here at Vivint? And we've pulled it off in a big way. And so my last 4 years have been my best. They've been the hardest years that I've had in the business, but I've learned more as an individual. I've been able to make more money than I've ever made, and I've been able to provide a bigger opportunity for my guys. And so I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned kind of this second half of my career that we're talking about, is that you have to be willing to pivot and change and be flexible, because the puck is always moving, right? It's always going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that makes great companies and great sales organizations maybe special, is that they're willing to, because the ones that haven't, the ones that are like, hey, this is my box, I'm going to stay in this, I'm never going to change, I'm never going to pivot, I'm never going to move. Those are a lot of the times the ones that go out of business.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so while we haven't gone away from our core offering, it's like, no, this is our core, the smart home. We're going to protect it at all costs. There are products and services out there that complement this in a way that we can make it all one beautiful kind of ecosystem. And I feel like that we've pulled that off. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, if we were selling the same product here that we were selling in 2012, I promise you I wouldn't be around.
Yeah.
Because when I was selling vacuum cleaners, that was my biggest complaint was I just got to where the product was really boring. I didn't believe that it did the stuff that I was telling people that it would do. And I had to be able to offer a product or service that I could stand behind. And so there's something about innovating, doing something special, really taking care of the customer, investing in the product so that it's delivering more value to the customer than they feel like they're paying for. All of that stuff matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Way more so than the paycheck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm kind of a nerd for this type of stuff. Do you get less cancels on your solar deals because you can go give them a good service on the alarm
100%.
sooner?
Yeah.
I wondered that.
Yeah. That was my point with that is like in the industry as a whole in solar, you're about 55% realization, meaning if you sell it, there's a 55% chance it gets installed.
All the way through. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
As soon as we bundle it with a smart home, it goes to 80%. And what's interesting is our cancels when our smart home customers go way down. They keep the service for way longer. And the cancels on the solar go way, way down. And so the two products really do complement each other. But again, it's like Todd, I mean, he's the GOAT, dude. And what he saw in 2011 that we weren't able to execute on at that time, we're finally doing now. And it keeps my head in the game. It keeps me interested in what we're doing here at Vivint.
And talk about, I think you mentioned this before we started shooting, but talk about you went and sold solar for however many months so you could just figure out how it works.
Yeah, so this was 2020.
Yeah.
And I was off doors. Like my teams, like I just told you, we were doing, the year before we had done 19,000 smart home accounts. I was fine.
Off doors for how long previous to this?
I think 2017 was my last year running a team. 2016 or 2017 was the last year running a team. And so I'd been off doors for probably 3 or 4 years. But I'll go knock right now.
And
like I'm not scared.
Well, I'm not scared either, but you had to go, presumably be kind of bad at something for a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like you could walk outside and have a new product and be a freaking killer with it right now, right? Just because sales, you just give me a different product.
Got the swagger.
Most of the sales cycle does not change. And that's the thing I love about sales is I feel like it's an exact science.
Yeah.
And if you do it long enough and enough times, like, you'll figure out any product. But yeah, I went out 10 weeks, just learned to sell, kind of figuring out the lingo of solar, how net metering works, what it's like to work with an EPC, how to get permits, all of that stuff. And then when we were ready, brought it back to my guys, and we just exploded. We doubled the org size because all those guys that left to go sell solar elsewhere got them all back.
Yeah,
went and recruited all those people back, and we blew up. And so now over the last 3 years, we've installed 10,000 solar accounts on top of about 20,000 smart home accounts.
Huge.
And so anyhow, I guess the point is just like, you have to be willing to adapt and change, never ignoring what your core opportunity is. And I've seen a lot of people do that, especially with solar, because it becomes this new shiny object and they get away from the core offering. And solar changes so fast that a lot of guys have retreated back to the core offering,
right?
Where they never should have ignored that to begin with. The solar should have just been something they bolted onto it, So anyhow.
So as we kind of wrap up, any just parting advice for our listeners, any overarching, anything you want to say at all to people at any stage?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not something that I haven't already said, but wherever you're at, just make that the best place, right? And I know I'm working for Vivint and I'm waving the flag and drinking the Kool-Aid and all that. But look, wherever you are, just dig that hole 100 feet deep. There's this idea, right, of would you rather have 10 holes that are 10 feet deep or one hole that's 100 feet deep? Mm-hmm. You want one hole that is 100 feet deep. And my only regret in the industry is that I wasn't in the spot that I'm in sooner. I was 26 when I finally landed at Apex and what's become Vivint, and I just wish that this would have been the only hole that I dug. So wherever you are, just focus on that until you can't answer yes to the 4 questions that we said earlier, and they don't have to be those 4 questions. Like, what are the things that are important to you? Just make sure that you know those and that you ask yourself maybe once a year, maybe once every 4 years, like homeboy at the NFL, but just make sure that you're in line with what the company is doing, that you feel like that you're in a position to go make a really big impact. And if you're not, why are you not? And maybe it's networking. Maybe you need to read different books. Maybe you need to hang out with different people. But I believe that God did not put any of us here to play small. And if we're doing that or we're being tempted to do that, you probably need to check yourself, because there's a reason that we're put in this position, and it's so that we can influence others for good. And I say that to my kids most days, right? When you're trying to leave the house, it's like, be a force for good, whatever it is, right? And so, be honest in your dealings with other people. Treat people fairly. Treat them the way that they want to be treated, because all that stuff comes back to you. And when you're in this space as long as I've been, if you've done people wrong or if you've done them right, that's the stuff that people remember, and it always comes back.
Comes back around.
Always comes back. Don't ever cut corners, because it'll always come back to haunt you later if you do.
Yep. Love it. Well, thanks,
It's a lot.
man. So, no, that was perfect. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you or follow you anymore, where can they do so?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. Yeah. I'm trying really hard not to spend much time on social media, but it's just Cox Buddy, CoxBuddy 01 on Instagram. Check it out. I'm on Facebook too. But does anybody still spend time on Facebook?
Less so. Only to communicate with very old people.
Yeah.
So
mostly Instagram, but don't do a ton of like awesome content. I'm a big hunter, so it's a lot of that.
Oh, this was the awesome content.
Thank you.
There you go.
No, it's been fun. Really appreciate you having me on. This is an awesome platform. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.